Every few months, another name gets added to the list. Another black and white photo, another tribute post, another bodybuilder, dead before 40. You already know that story. This video is about something different. By the time this video ends, you will never look at a bodybuilder the same way again. Not on stage, not in the gym, not on Instagram. Chris Bumstead, 5-time classic physique Olympia champion, said it himself after retiring, that he was fully aware bodybuilding was destroying his health, that real damage had been done to his body, and that when he started a family, he simply wasn't willing to make that sacrifice anymore. What makes that statement even heavier is this. Bumstead knew exactly what he was walking into. Before his career even began, he was told clearly the deaths, the side effects, the long-term damage. He went in with open eyes, and he still did it because that's what this sport demands. This is about the ones who survived and what survival actually cost them. The needle behind the muscle. Everyone already knows bodybuilders die young. Andreas Munzer, 31. Rich Piana, 46. Dallas McCarver, 26. The list is long, and the pattern is obvious. But that's not what this video is about. This is about the ones who survived, and why surviving professional bodybuilding isn't always the better outcome. It starts with a needle. In professional bodybuilding, injections aren't occasional, they're a daily schedule. Testosterone, growth hormone, insulin, diuretics, sometimes all in the same day. The body receives so much synthetic testosterone that it makes one simple decision: stop making its own. So the testicles go quiet, they shrink. In documented medical cases, men who used steroids for more than a year found their testicular volume drop to levels that shocked their doctors, sometimes as low as 2 to 3 milliliters. Normal is closer to 15 to 25. The function doesn't just slow down. In some cases, it stops entirely. Here's what makes this darker. Many of these athletes already knew this was coming. Some planned their families before their careers even began. Not as a precaution, as a certainty. They knew what the drugs would do, and they made their choice anyway. For the ones who didn't plan ahead, some waited years after retiring for recovery. A few are still waiting. For men who used high doses for more than a year, sperm production can take over a year to return, if it returns at all. The muscles fade after retirement. The damage underneath doesn't. And that's just where the story starts. When the drugs stop, on stage, the testosterone levels of a professional bodybuilder run 10 to 20 times higher than what a normal man naturally produces. The energy, the confidence, the drive, it all runs on that. For years, that becomes the baseline. That becomes normal. Then the career ends, the drugs stop, and the body has completely forgotten how to function without them. The muscle starts shrinking almost immediately. Energy disappears. Sleep becomes difficult. Depression sets in, not the kind that passes in a few days, but the clinical kind that can last months. Some men describe it as feeling like a completely different person, hollow, flat, like the lights went out and nobody knows where the switch is. Sexual function takes a hit too. Without synthetic testosterone coming in, and with natural production still dormant, many retired bodybuilders experience a complete loss of sexual drive and function, sometimes for months, sometimes longer. Jay Cutler, 4-time Mr. Olympia, confirmed publicly that he takes testosterone replacement therapy and will for the rest of his life. Not to compete, just to feel like a functional human being. He's not alone. Most retired professional bodybuilders end up on TRT permanently because their bodies simply cannot restart natural production on their own. Stopping cold is even worse. Withdrawal symptoms begin within a week. Severe depression, chronic fatigue, insomnia, mood swings that can last up to a year. In extreme cases, the depression becomes dangerous enough to require immediate medical intervention. And then there's the brain. Years of hormonal manipulation and extreme dieting affect cognitive function in ways that surprised even researchers. Simple conversations become difficult, concentration drops, memory gets foggy. The man who spent years calculating every gram of food sometimes can't remember what he walked into a room for. The stage is gone, the fans are gone, the identity is gone. What's left is a man whose body ran on a chemical system for years and now has to figure out how to exist without it. The body that looks strong but can't function. Here's something the fitness industry will never put in an advertisement. The man on that stage, the one who looks like he could walk through a wall, can't run to the end of the street, can't climb a flight of stairs without losing his breath, can't sit in a standard car seat comfortably. In some cases, can't even tie his own shoes without struggling. A trained MMA fighter half his size would finish him in under a minute because stamina, reflexes, and explosive movement require a completely different body. The muscle mass that wins competitions creates something that is, by almost every functional measure, physically broken. Then there's what years of daily injections do to the body from the outside in. Every injection site slowly builds scar tissue. The veins, repeatedly punctured over years in the same spots, begin to collapse. They harden, close shut, and stop functioning permanently. Many long-term bodybuilders reach a point where finding a working vein becomes genuinely difficult. The tissue is too damaged, too hardened to absorb properly. In a medical emergency, that becomes life-threatening. When a bodybuilder collapses, paramedics face problems they simply don't encounter with normal patients. The sheer body weight, sometimes 280 to 300 pounds of dense muscle, makes moving the patient without equipment nearly impossible. 4 people struggling to shift a man who can't help himself. Standard CPR chest compressions have to fight through layers of thick muscle before reaching the heart. And when paramedics try to insert an IV line, the most basic emergency procedure, the collapsed, scarred veins make access extremely difficult. Precious minutes lost trying to find a viable entry point while the clock is running. Sleeping becomes its own problem. The sheer size makes turning over in bed painful and difficult. Some athletes sleep in one position the entire night because shifting weight is too uncomfortable. Greg Kovacs, one of the heaviest bodybuilders in history at over 400 pounds, reached a point where his wife had to assist him with basic hygiene because his arms simply couldn't reach where they needed to. He wore adult diapers, not from illness, from size. And then there's what nobody in the sport discusses publicly. A diet of 6 to 8 high-protein meals daily, combined with gut-disrupting supplements, creates digestive byproducts that have nowhere to hide. The flatulence is real, frequent, and the smell is in a category of its own. The sweat carries ammonia compounds from constant protein metabolism, a smell distinctly different from normal perspiration. Fans who met their favorite bodybuilders in person describe being unable to stand nearby for long. And this isn't limited to the men. Female professional bodybuilders following the same drug protocols and diet structures report identical issues. The chemistry doesn't change just because the gender does. In the final week before competition, some athletes stop showering entirely, afraid that water absorption through the skin will affect their stage look. Days without bathing, combined with extreme dehydration and stimulants, the man selling supplements online, and the reality standing in that hotel room, 2 completely different things. The physique was built to be looked at from a distance. Up close, the reality is something else entirely. The week before the stage, most people assume that competition day is when a bodybuilder is at their healthiest, the leanest, the most prepared, the most disciplined version of themselves. The reality is the opposite. In the final week before a show, what the sport calls peak week, a bodybuilder's body is running on empty in ways that most doctors would consider a medical emergency. Water intake gets cut to almost nothing, sometimes for 24 to 48 hours straight. No fluids. The goal is to drain every drop of water from between the skin and muscle, so the definition looks sharper under stage lights. The muscles pop, the veins come out, and internally, the organs are screaming. Diuretics accelerate the process. These are pharmaceutical drugs that force the kidneys to dump water and electrolytes out of the body at an unnatural rate. The potassium levels drop, the sodium drops. The heart, which depends on those electrolytes to maintain a normal rhythm, starts to struggle. Irregular heartbeats, cramping so severe, some athletes can't even hold their poses on stage. In extreme cases, cardiac arrest. Terry Harris made her professional debut at a show in 2013. 2 days later, she went into cardiac arrest on a Stairmaster at her gym. She was 49. Her partners said she had been cramping badly the night before the show, but she was afraid to drink water because she didn't want to ruin her stage look. George Peterson was found dead in his hotel room 2 days before the 2021 Olympia. He was 37. Police found hundreds of pills, steroids, thyroid medication, fat burners, all without prescription labels. Research has found that professional bodybuilders die from sudden cardiac events at 5 times the rate of amateur athletes. The average age at death among competing professionals, 35 years old. These aren't rare stories. They are the predictable outcome of a system that rewards how a body looks for 2 hours on a Saturday and doesn't ask what it cost the other 364 days of the year. The industry that buries its own. When a bodybuilder dies, the pattern is almost always the same. A black and white photo goes up on social media, a hashtag, a few words about legacy and sacrifice, and then silence. The federation says nothing. The sponsors move on. The coach who designed the prep protocol, the extreme dehydration, the diuretics, the drug stack, disappears completely. No statement, no accountability, nothing. A study tracking over 20,000 competitive bodybuilders found that professional athletes die from sudden cardiac arrest at 5 times the rate of amateur competitors. Out of 100 elite athletes who competed at the Mr. Olympia over the years, 7 died from sudden causes. 5 of those were cardiac deaths, at an average age of 36. These aren't underground athletes. These are the most famous names in the sport. And yet, the industry treats each death as an isolated incident. Jose Mateus Correa Silva collapsed at a gym in Brazil in November 2024. He was 28 years old. He didn't make it. His family said he had no prior health conditions. When athletes win, coaches post transformation photos. When athletes die, those same coaches go quiet. The supplements still sell. The Instagram pages stay up. The affiliate codes still work. The industry built on image doesn't stop moving just because the person in the photo is gone. That's not a coincidence. That's a business model. Most bodybuilders die young. You already knew that, but now you know what happens to the ones who don't. The dependency that never ends. The body that can't do what any ordinary man takes for granted. Chris Bumstead knew what he was walking into, and he still called it damage. That's the part they never show you. If this video changed how you see this sport, drop a comment. And if you think someone needs to see this, share it.